Hello Eorzeans, I'm the Keel Bravestone and welcome to this episode of Remnants of a Realm. In the previous episode we looked back at Camp Emerald Moss, Treespeak, Last Hold, Alder Springs and the 7th Umbral Era story quest, Living on a Prayer. Because the video kind of ran out of time, I didn't have time to fill in a couple of extra details, so let's just go over that real quick. The Living on a Prayer questline was revisited in A Realm Reborn with the introduction of Eternal Bonding in patch 2.45. In the quest, The Ties That Bind, the players are required to take on the same pilgrimage as the 1.0 adventurers had to complete in Living on a Prayer. This did bring up a few problems though, as all of the Black Shroud stones were located in West Shroud, which was mostly destroyed in the Calamity, only exception being the one in Gridania. The stones located in West Shroud being the stones for Althik and Byragot. So Althik was moved from Lynxpelt Patch in the West Shroud to the outside of Amdapor Keep in South Shroud, and Byragot, which was located in the water close to Camp Crimson Bark in West Shroud, is now located in the water near Camp Tranquil. The Black Shroud was not the only area where the stones were moved around. Naldthal's second aspect, located in Milvaneth's Sacrarium, is locked in A Realm Reborn and is therefore no longer accessible. In the Eternal Bonding quest, the second aspect of Nald is ignored. Hallone's Stone was located in the Fury's Gaze near Twin Pools in the Kurthus Western Highlands before the Calamity. After the Calamity, the Fury's Gaze and the stone was moved to Kurthus Central Highlands. The most impressive stone of them all was Thaliak, located in the Jagged Crystal Cave in Mordona. The cave is no longer accessible, and the stone can now be found in Rathfrost in Mordona, close to Castrum Sentry. Other than these, the other stones are more or less accessible today in their original spots. I say more or less because the maps are almost entirely different today, so all we can really go off of are the location names. So that was Living on a Prayer Part 2. Now let's get on with our first location for this episode, Camp Bald Knoll. Camp Bald Knoll was an interesting camp in many ways, as it had its own leave meet and was located to the far north of western Noscea. So far north it had no connection to the main road, the Lathagran West Road. In fact, the West Road stops long before you even get close to Bald Knoll. Bald Knoll had ethereal gate connections to the Isles of Umbra and the mysterious Mistbeard Cove. The terrain around Bald Knoll is also worth mentioning, being a heavily forested area for 1.0, having numerous caves as well as a desolate beach to the far north. Oh, and this annoying spot right here, which, as you probably guessed, was really difficult to get into, and there really was no reason to get there except for certain quests and leaves forcing you down there. The camp itself was naturally the home of several fishing spots due to being so close to the sea. Also being the only camp in the whole western portion of western Noscea, it was naturally the home of several behests and one notorious monster, Great Buffalo. I believe I mentioned some ethereal gates, so let's take a look at them, shall we? Let's start with the Isles of Umbra. The Isles of Umbra was a group of small islands connected via bridges. It served mostly as a leave quest location, but also as a place of mystery. It was located to the very southwest of western Noscea, just west of Aleport. Other than the odd leave taking place here, there wasn't much more to do at this place. I did mention mystery though, because there was actually a dungeon here that never opened, called Umbra Cove. And guess what? That's coming up in Secrets of a Realm one day. There were also other caves that really didn't lead anywhere, mostly dead ends. I remember this place being rather annoying because of the layout, and this was also the place where the inability to jump became unbearable. Oh, come on! The second ethereal gate connection to Bald Knoll was teased to our Patreon supporters. This is the one and only Mistbeard Cove. This complex cave system was technically just an open world dungeon with no actual goals or hidden loot, but instead served as a great place to grind mobs in a dungeon setting, much like the Tamtara Deepcroft, which we covered in a previous episode. The dungeon itself was fairly big, all spread out over one level. The name of the dungeon was a mystery in 1.0, but it obviously references Mistbeard, the king of pirates. Mistbeard was also connected to Noscea, where Mistbeard's treasure was rumored to be hidden. It is possible the cave was used by Mistbeard as a base of operation for him and his crew. Parts of the cave are decorated with Sahagin flags, which indicated that the cave had been compromised and in the process of being taken over. In the plunder hold and arms hold, you'd find Sahagin enemies, further cementing that the caves have shifted hands. The slop house and the whale's gate was closed off from the rest of the cove with a locked door. The door would not open until patch 1.20, when the Lambs of Dalamud events began. The event was pretty simple in its design. A random NPC would appear in the city-states with a purple ethereal gate behind them. By selecting the ethereal gate, you and your party would be moved into the location, in some cases Mistbeard's Cove, in these locked areas. You and your party then had to stave off waves of cultists, and the rewards were usually just potions. Other than that though, the caves were mostly used for grinding. Moving out of Mistbeard's Cove, we have to look at one last location in this area: Halfstone. Halfstone was a fairly new settlement, although it was never explained exactly when it was founded. The name Halfstone came from the area's rocky ground being literally half stone, where almost nothing would grow. It was located just south of Camp Bald Knoll. Despite their disadvantaged location, the settlers managed to grow a variety of fruits and yams, as well as Elfic lavender that would turn out to become the settlement's big moneymaker. The lavender was turned into a perfume, very popular in the Razat Han market. So what happened to all these areas after the calamity? Well, let's start with Camp Bald Knoll and the greater Bald Knoll area. The calamity destroyed a lot of western Noscea, including Camp Bald Knoll. In the wake of the calamity, Leviathan flooded the area with a tidal wave, so the Sahagin saw it fit to claim more land and invaded the northernmost of western Noscea. The Sahagin then began recultivating the land to fit their needs. It is unknown how the Bald Knoll area disappeared, but it is no longer referenced on the maps of the Realm Reborn's western Noscea. We know that Leviathan caused a massive tidal wave shortly after the calamity, which further destroyed most of the Eorzean settlements in the area, so if the calamity didn't wipe out the camp of the Face of Hydaelyn, the tidal wave surely did. But what of its ethereal gates? Well, Isles of Umbra, which used to be a group of small islands connected via bridges, now stands as mostly one large island with a few other smaller islands scattered around it. Only 2 of these islands are accessible, mainly the big and this medium-sized one. The other islands are grayed out on the map. The islands are also completely cut off from the mainland, now having its own docks. Another new structure is Pharaoh Sirius, which didn't exist in 1.0, although Realm Reborn's revised lore implies that it's been standing there for a long time and having been damaged in the calamity. This is the first time in this series that we encounter a flat-out lore rewrite. These are not very common, but Pharaoh Sirius is probably the most obvious one. So what of Mistbeard's Cove? Well, most of the caves collapsed in the calamity, but remember Noscea and Cassiopeia Hollow, and how I said they were used as inspiration for Sestasha? Well, parts of Mistbeard Cove became Sestasha. And that's not inspiration, that's just what it is. The location of Sestasha and the design of the later parts of the dungeon strongly suggests that Sestasha breaks into Mistbeard's Cove after the first boss. The hidden entrance is actually the entrance to Mistbeard's Cove. Halfstone, on the other hand, is a whole other story. Bald Knoll seems to have been completely retconned into Halfstone, now being the name of the whole area. The settlement is gone after the Sahagin invaded and planting their own disgusting flowers. The attack was held back and massive gates were erected to keep the Sahagin at bay, the north and south Tide Gate. There were further developments on the other end of these gates, but we must first travel back in time to 1.0 and look at that area first. And we're of course headed to Camp Skull Valley. Camp Skull Valley was a rather small aetheroid camp with a vendor and a mender located to the northeast of Aleport in western Noscea. It was the last aetheroid camp on the Denevel West Road and had a path connecting to Selma's Run to the north. Skull Valley got its name from a battle in the year 880 of the 6th Astral Era, aka a damn long time ago, when the Minsan forces were sent out to claim it from the kobolds that held the territory back then. It is said that the skulls of defeated kobolds lined the entire valley, hence the name Skull Valley. The camp itself didn't exist until the year 905 6th Astral Era by the Knights of the Barracuda, the first Lominsan military force. It was lightly manned to prevent kobolds from swarming the area, and it was strategically placed close to the narrow path close to where the kobolds resided. The area was rich in both mining, logging, quarrying, harvesting, fishing, and even spearfishing, and crawled with monsters of all kinds. This was one of the more active camp areas in 1.0, also serving behests and numerous leaves. Despite this, the camp did not have its own leave meat. The camp also had one ethereal connection to Woad Whisper Canyon. Woad Whisper Canyon was a leave location consisting of 3 areas connected via tunnels. As you can see, they were just copy-pasted together, as was the standard in 1.0's map design. That's about as exciting as this place ever got though. You basically just did leaves here and teleported back. Also worth noting is Swift Perch Tower located to the southeast of Skull Valley. This small lighthouse-looking structure was erected close to the Denevel West Road and this Limp Penis mountain range to provide a Yellow Jacket outpost in the area. That's really all that there is to say about it. I just wanted to call out this obvious Limp Penis formation. Don't tell me it isn't. It is. Okay, moving on. After the calamity, the invasion of Bald Knoll and what would later be renamed to Halfstone prompted an immediate upgrade of Skull Valley's defenses. The small camp would no longer be able to hold back the beast tribes. The kobolds were pushing towards the northeast, while the Sahagin pushed ahead in the north. Skull Valley would not fall into Sahagin or kobold hands, so the camp was quickly upgraded to a small fortress protecting the greater Skull Valley area. Thus, Skull Valley remains a key strategic point for Limsa Lominsa's defense. The area around Skull Valley still shows the scars from the calamity, with trees that have all burned down. Woad Whisper Canyon, which used to be located just northwest of Skull Valley in western La Noscea, shifted location to middle La Noscea. During the calamity, the Nim River was rerouted due to the massive changes in the lay of the land, and started flooding down into Woad Whisper Canyon, which is no longer recognizable. It's even less remarkable than it was in 1.0 actually, which is pretty impressive. I am sad to report though that the giant Dong didn't survive the calamity. A tragedy. Rest in peace, sweet prince. Swift Perch Tower was also destroyed in the calamity, but an Aetheryte camp was built around the ruins of the outpost, so the name of the tower still lives on. And with that, we've made it through another episode. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you want more. And let me know in the comments what you think about all this. I'll be back in the next episode of Remnants of a Realm. See you then, Eorzeans, and may you ever walk in the light of the crystal.